Lazy gardener's dream. Easiest perennials for pots. Hello, Earthly Delights family. If you've ever dreamed of having a lush, blooming garden, but felt too busy, too forgetful, or just unsure where to start, then this video was made exactly for you. Maybe you're a city dweller with just a balcony and a few pots. Maybe your job keeps you on your feet all day, and you barely have time to breathe, let alone replant every season. Or maybe you've tried gardening before, only to watch your plants slowly fade because life simply got in the way. If that's you, you're not alone. And you're not a bad gardener. You're just the kind of person who needs plants that work with your life, not against it. Today, I'm sharing my favorite foolproof perennials that thrive in pots and ask for almost nothing in return. No constant watering, no seasonal replanting, no stress. These are the plants I recommend to my own clients, my friends, and now, to you. So grab a cup of tea, settle into your favorite chair, and let's start planting the kind of peace that lasts year after year. And hey, if you love gentle, practical gardening content like this, don't forget to subscribe to Earthly Delights so you never miss a moment of green inspiration. 1. The Lazy Gardener's Formula: color, texture, and no drama. Let's start with a secret, one that seasoned gardeners know, and beginners often overlook. You don't need to do more to grow more. The real magic? It lies in choosing the right plants. You see, most people think gardening means constant watering, trimming, and seasonal headaches. But what if I told you there's a way to create a vibrant, long-lasting container garden that feels almost effortless? It all begins with 3 simple ingredients: color, texture, and no drama. Color brings life to your space. Even a dull concrete balcony can glow with the right bloom. Texture adds depth and personality, turning an ordinary pot into a living sculpture. And no drama? That means no fragile divas here. We're choosing plants that thrive on minimal care, tolerate a bit of neglect, and still show up for you, season after season. So, whether you're working with 5 pots on a windowsill or a shaded porch out back, this formula will change everything. In the next section, I'll introduce you to plants that bring this lazy gardener's dream to life, starting with a leaf that never needs to bloom to make a statement. 2. Evergreen Magic, the year-round charmers. Now that you know the formula, let me show you how it plays out in real life, starting with the quiet champions of container gardening. These are the perennials that don't shout for attention, but always show up, rain or shine. They're the ones that keep your pots looking alive, even when everything else fades. Take coral bells, also known as heuchera. This plant isn't flashy in the way flowers are, but its leaves, oh, those leaves, they come in shades of caramel, deep plum, lime green, even silver-veined velvet. And here's the secret: you don't even need blooms when your foliage looks this good. It's like nature's artwork, right there in your pot. And because coral bells thrive in part to full shade, they're perfect for those tricky spots, like under a covered patio or beside a north-facing window. They don't complain, they just grow. Pair them with something simple like trailing ivy or a silver-toned herb, and you've instantly got a container that feels rich, full, and beautifully curated, without ever breaking a sweat. Coming up, we'll explore a few more of these quiet powerhouses, plants that prove gardening success isn't about effort, but about wisdom. Ready? Let's step into the shade. 3. Shade warriors that steal the show. Let's linger a little longer in the shade, because if you've ever thought that low light spots meant lifeless corners, think again. Some of the most breathtaking container plants were born to thrive where the sun barely kisses the leaves. Enter the hosta. Now, don't let its soft, rippled foliage fool you. This plant is as tough as they come. With its wide, elegant leaves in hues of deep green, frosty blue, or variegated white and lime, a single hosta can carry an entire pot with quiet confidence. And when summer arrives, it rewards you with delicate flower stalks that seem to hover like little lanterns. But here's where it gets exciting: if you're working with tighter spaces, try miniature hostas. They offer the same lush impact but fit beautifully on small balconies, windowsills, or narrow entryways. They're like little sculptures that require almost nothing, yet always look like you've spent hours planning. And for that extra layer of elegance, bring in Japanese forest grass. With its arching, golden blades, It creates movement, a gentle sway with every breeze, that makes your container feel alive, even when you're not watching. Up next, we move from the cool comfort of shade into the warmth of sunshine and fragrance, where your senses truly begin to bloom. 4. Scent and soul, perennials that speak to the senses. Now let's step into the light, where fragrance floats on the breeze and your containers do more than just look beautiful, they feel alive. Because sometimes, the plants we grow aren't just for the eyes, they're for the soul. Take lavender, for instance. This silvery-stemmed wonder doesn't just brighten up a sun-drenched corner, it brings calm, charm, and that unmistakable scent of summer. One gentle brush against the leaves and suddenly, you're not on your patio anymore, you're wandering a quiet hill in Provence. Lavender loves the sun and hates soggy feet. So if your pot drains well and gets plenty of light, you're golden. And here's the joy. Not only is it low maintenance, it's useful too. Dry a few stems, tuck them into drawers, or craft a sachet to keep beside your bed. It's beauty and function, bundled in one plant. Want to add even more emotion to your garden? Try dianthus, also known as pinks. These little bloomers come with a soft clove-like fragrance and delicate petals that look hand-painted. And they carry memories, grandmother's gardens, country fences, quiet mornings. Stay with me, because next, we'll turn up the heat and meet the bold ones, the plants that blaze like summer fireworks in every pot. 5. Fireworks in a pot, bold, bright, and built for summer. Now that your senses are awakened, let's add some spark, because every garden, no matter how small, deserves a moment of drama. The kind of bold, blazing beauty that makes neighbors slow down, and bees race in. Let's start with salvia. This isn't your average bloom, it's a firecracker on a stem. Upright, vivid, and pulsing with purples, blues, or fiery reds, salvia brings structure and energy to any container. And the best part? The more you snip it, the more it blooms, like a friend who only gets better the more time you spend together. And if you're looking for that wild, wind-swept, prairie feeling, meet echinacea, also known as coneflower. This daisy-like perennial is the heart of any meadow-inspired pot. Its blooms rise tall and proud. And the butterflies? They can't get enough. It's a plant that attracts life, color, motion, and even a little joy. Together, salvia and echinacea turn your pots into centerpieces of the season. They're not just decorations, they're statements, sun-loving, low fuss, and impossible to ignore. Coming up next, we'll meet the true survivors, plants for the forgetful gardener, the weekend traveler, or anyone who loves plants, but forgets to water. Stay with me. 6. The survivors, built for forgetfulness. Let's be honest, life gets busy. You miss a watering here, skip a pruning there, and suddenly your once happy plant looks like it's begging for help. But what if your pots were filled with plants that didn't need you to be perfect? That's where the survivors come in. Meet sedum, the quiet champion of the lazy gardener's world. With its thick, fleshy leaves that store water like a succulent, sedum laughs in the face of neglect. You can forget about it for days, even weeks, and it'll still stand strong, thriving through heat waves and dry spells like a seasoned desert dweller. And when autumn arrives, some varieties surprise you with clusters of soft pink blooms, like nature's way of saying, thanks for the space. Then there's the ice plant, a sun-worshipping stunner that covers itself in vibrant, daisy-like flowers. It stays low, spreads wide, and requires almost nothing, just sunshine and a bit of drainage. And you've got a glowing mat of color that looks like you've been gardening for hours, when really, you've done next to nothing. Next, we'll trade toughness for elegance as we explore the plants that tumble, trail, and soften every edge, adding movement and flow to your pots without ever losing their grace. 7. Overflowing elegance, cascading beauties. Now that we've met the tough ones, it's time to soften the scene. Because a well-planted container isn't just about height or color, it's also about movement. About the way plants spill gently over the edges like fabric draped in slow motion. Let's start with nepeta, or catmint, with its soft lavender blue blooms and silvery foliage. It flows like a gentle stream across the rim of any container. It's long-blooming, aromatic, and utterly charming, and while the bees adore it, so do cats, so maybe keep it just out of paw's reach if your feline friend tends to garden hop. Now imagine pairing that softness with a flash of gold. Creeping Jenny, with its trailing tendrils of lime green, lights up shaded corners like sunshine in plant form. It drapes elegantly, brightens dark pots, and plays well with both bold flowers and subtle foliage. No tantrums, no drama, just grace in motion. These cascading plants don't just fill space, they finish it. They make your containers feel curated, alive, and effortless. And in the next part, we'll crown the Queen of Shade, a plant that rises like feathers and whispers elegance wherever it's placed. Let's go find her. 8. Feathered and fancy, shade-loving elegance. Not every star craves the spotlight. Some shine best in the quiet, under overhangs, behind fences, or in that cool, shaded corner where the sun only visits for a whisper. And that's exactly where today's queen resides. Meet Astilbe, a plant that doesn't just grow, it performs, with its soft, feathery plumes rising above lacy fern-like leaves. Astilbe looks like pastel fireworks frozen in time. Its blooms sway gently in the breeze, adding a dreamy motion to even the stillest of patios. And unlike many showy plants, it doesn't need full sun to steal the show. Give it moist soil and dappled light, and Astilbe will reward you with elegance that feels almost effortless. It's a favorite for shaded porches, covered balconies, or that side yard that never seems to get enough light. Water it regularly, and it will quietly flourish, season after season. And if you're craving something a little more exotic, try toad lily, with its spotted, orchid-like blooms and sturdy arching stems. It's a shade lover's hidden gem, a plant for the curious soul who likes their garden to whisper rather than shout. Coming up next, we're stepping away from beauty alone and into meaning. Let's talk about plants that carry memory, connection, and story. 9. Beyond looks, perennials that tell a story. By now, you've seen how perennials can transform a space, but here's something even more powerful. They can also transform you. Because sometimes, a plant is more than a pretty leaf or a splash of color. Sometimes, it's a memory, a symbol, a quiet reminder of someone you love, or a moment you never want to forget. Maybe it's that patch of lavender that takes you back to your grandmother's porch. Or a pot of dianthus that smells like childhood summers. Laughter, and homemade lemonade, even a single hosta, passed down from a friend's garden, can hold more meaning than a whole bed of store-bought blooms. That's the magic of gardening. It's not just about how your space looks. It's about how it feels. These plants become part of your rhythm, your story. They grow when you grow. They rest when you rest. And even when you're not paying attention, they're still quietly showing up for you. So as you choose what to plant, don't just ask, what's easy? Ask, what matters to me? Because the best garden isn't always the most beautiful. It's the one that remembers you. And now, as we wrap things up, let's talk about how to begin, small, simple, and with joy. Start small, stay joyful. So here we are, at the edge of possibility. Maybe your hands are still clean. Or maybe you're already picturing that one quiet corner you've been meaning to fill. Either way, the journey doesn't have to be grand. It just has to start. Start with one pot, one plant, one tiny intention. Let your garden grow slowly, like a breath you didn't realize you were holding. Because in the end, it's not about having the biggest balcony display or the most curated containers. It's about having a space that feels like you. You've now met plants that thrive in shade and sun, that spill, stand tall, and bloom with heart. You've seen that beauty doesn't require perfection, and that the best plants are the ones that understand your life, your pace, your rhythm. So before you scroll away, take a moment. What's the first plant that called to you? Start there, and trust that it's enough. If this video made you smile, gave you an idea, or reminded you of why you love gardening in the first place, don't forget to subscribe to Earthly Delights. We're just getting started, and there's so much more green joy to come. Until next time, plant slow, live fully, and let your pots tell your story.